Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and we're back again with another What Have We Been Watching, this time for the month of March. The Oscar season's done, so we have no more Best Picture revisiting movies to watch. Maybe Matt's watched some old Oscar nominees, but I used the month of March to do a lot of work travel, so my movies aren't as grand or as many new releases as I typically have, but as you may have saw if you are a subscriber out there, we did meet up in Toronto to record some Oscar predictions, and we had time to catch a movie, that movie being Sasquatch Sunset.
What a wild one to catch together. Yeah, we were just walking around. We're like, oh, TIFF has a secret movie that they're playing tonight. I wonder what it is. And then it was 2 hours of Jesse Eisenberg dressed up in a Sasquatch costume, shitting and pissing over everything. Basically, Sasquatch Sunset, if you've ever watched 2001: A Space Odyssey and you thought, wow, I loved that Dawn of Man sequence, I sure wish that was the entire movie and had much more bodily fluids in it, then Sasquatch Sunset is the movie for you.
I thought it was an interesting film. I very much commend it for the swings that it takes. It lives on the edge, and it's as untraditional as possible, like you're talking about, but I was very disconnected with the film throughout. I was always like, oh, this is interesting, but I wasn't like loving it as I was watching it. Riley Keough gives her best performance of her career, so that's a positive to take away from it. I think the body humor goes a little too far at times. The themes are interesting, but it's like one of those where I'm happy to have watched it, but I'm not like running home to be like, oh my gosh, other people go see this. This is like the movie of the year. One thing I guess I want to ask you is, do you think this has any shot of like a makeup shortlist, or is this a complete like just under the radar sort of thing?
I think it's under the radar, but I think there will be a bit of a push for it at the end of the year. I could see people really rallying for it. Like you said, Dylan, I'm glad it exists. I don't feel the need to watch it again. I don't feel the need to recommend it, but it's cool a movie as strange as this exists.
And this past month, I think we had one other overlap of films that we watched.
Yeah.
Because we both saw Dune Part 2 for a second time, but we did a whole video on Dune Part 2, so you should probably go check that one out if you haven't already.
Yeah, we won't say much more about Dune. You've heard it all. So what else have you been going out to the theaters to see, Dylan? Because I know you've been to the theater much more than I have. I've kind of been avoiding it this month.
The theater and me this month has kind of been like distant friends. We haven't seen each other as often as we probably should, but I did see a few things. And I guess I should go in the order of my favorite ones to my least favorite, because kind of in the trend of the rest of 2024, there's a lot of stinkers this year. But one stinker I didn't have was Late Night with the Devil. I think this is one of the best things I've seen all year. As someone who works in live TV production, I was just really floored with the approach of how they would tell the story. I can nitpick little things here and there that are like 100% physically impossible to do today. So I would assume it would be physically impossible to do all the way back then when they're setting this film to take place during. If I could make a movie, this would be the type of movie I would want to make, where it looks like uber realistic as to be like you're watching something live on TV. That's the type of film I've always wanted to see, so I'm really glad that we do have it here with Late Night with the Devil. I was just on the edge of my seat with the suspense, the screenplay, the visuals, the mood. But there are some criticisms here. I think the final act is kind of just over the place. It takes it from like a weak 9 to like a solid 8. I know there's a talk of AI inside this film. I see both sides with it. Like, the use of AI here isn't really needed. It's something that someone probably could have done in like 30 minutes, but listening to the directors talk, they worked with the graphics team on the film. Everyone was together with this decision to use AI, so I'm kind of cool with it here, but I don't want to see it go like further and like take out full jobs.
It's a complex topic with the use of AI in Late Night with the Devil. I think what it comes down to is you have filmmakers who want to test out something new, they want to try something, they want to be on the cutting edge, and people got really upset about that, but I don't think it's worthy of boycotting an indie film for that reason. I do really want to see Late Night with the Devil. I just haven't really ventured out to do it yet, but I will see that one eventually. What else have you seen this month?
Well, we talked about Sasquatches, but what about monkeys? Because Giant Lizard x Humongous Monkey, the New Empire, also known as Godzilla v Kong. Can I say this is masterfully crafted? Absolutely not. But can I say this was super entertaining? 100%. I think this film does better than any other MonsterVerse film with the emphasis of doing what is King Kong, what is his character. Godzilla, on the other hand, is just rah, screams, breaks some buildings, sleeps in the Coliseum, and that's kind of the end of his scenes. I find it so funny, like, seeing people online be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see Godzilla finally get his moment to shine in one of these movies. And this is the movie that he's had the least amount of screen time percentage in all of the MonsterVerse movies. I'm like, really? Here, he feels like the 5th, 6th main character, and he's the first name on the title. I could go into actually criticizing this movie, but this is not a film you go in for a critical lens. This is a film you go into, you turn your brain off, you see giant comic book fights, and if you're on board with it, you'll have fun. If you say this is stupid, then you're going to think it's stupid.
So, couple questions here. Godzilla -1 or Godzilla X Kong?
Yeah, it's pretty easily Godzilla -1. This movie's fun. It's not good. That movie's fun and it's good.
Alternate question. Which Godzilla wins? Godzilla versus Godzilla, which one beats the other?
That's a fair question. I think I would have to go with the one in this MonsterVerse movie just because he's like OP. Whenever he comes on screen, he just like, there's no way for him to lose besides when they make up like plot holes for the reason why Kong can like slow him down for a little bit. While in Godzilla -1, they actually do defeat him at the end of the day.
See, this is the thing that we all need to know, because we all know that of course Godzilla -1 is going to be better. But we don't know which Godzilla is more powerful. So thank you for answering that question. It's been burning in my mind.
The next one I'm going to talk about has a very burning question, and that is Immaculate. Because, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this movie. Matt, have you seen it yet?
No. No.
Okay.
I don't know if I will.
I don't want to spoil it for you, though. Like,
I don't care.
You don't care? Well, Immaculate is the perfect movie to watch on Easter Sunday because that's exactly what I did. Sydney Sweeney delivers a career best performance. Is that a high bar? I don't really know. It has some comments on religion, which I'm always open to inside of films. But when they go into that mania of like the last 15 minutes of when she's about to give birth to the new baby Jesus, that is when this film goes so crazy that I love it. And with the cut to black as she smashes in the new baby Jesus' head is pure cinema.
Oh, that sounds fun. Okay, maybe I will watch this movie. We got to get you that shirt. The shirt that's like, this is an abomination. The liberal left saw that the anti-woke crowd was embracing Sydney Sweeney and immediately put her in I love that.
Yeah,
I love
that
it.
is just great duality. Because like I'm really surprised actually there hasn't been more uproar about this movie. Because if you see how people get upset with like the depiction of Jesus in this or that, and a movie where they crush his skull in,
I don't think that people are seeing it that much. You know, I don't know. What's the box office looking like for this one?
It's Neon's best box office. It's Neon's best box office today. That's not a high bar to clear again. It made like $5 million in its opening weekend. Speaking of rip movies, I saw Suncoast. Also went in here with little knowledge of the overall film. It just looked like something up my alley. Did I love it as much as I thought I would? Maybe not, but it was still fun. This has nothing to do with the film, but Nico Parker, who's a star, maybe my favorite Nepo baby of all time. Her dad is the director of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, and her mom is the star of Crash. That alone gives my recommendation for her getting more roles in Hollywood. And I will just blow through 2 more movies. These were the real stinkers of March. Kung Fu Panda 4 feels like one of those old-timey Disney direct-to-video sequels that you dig out of a VHS bin. Nothing here really hits for me. The twists and turns are all really as clear as day. Jack Black just doesn't have that positive energy that you normally get from him, and the action to me at least was just super bland. And then I saw Imaginary. Blumhouse over 2 this year after Night Swim. What I can say about Imaginary, I can't say for Night Swim, is this would make a great Universal Halloween Horror Nights house, and I kind of hope that they do it.
Oh, cool. That would be a cool idea for one. On the other hand, I only went to the theaters 3 times this month total. I did want to go more. I wish I saw Problemista. I wish I saw Love Lies Bleeding. I didn't see either of those. But I did see Drive Away Dolls, which I know you watched last month and you hated. I didn't like it, but it wasn't terrible. It was campy. It knew what it was. Margaret Qualley was really fun to watch, but it was sort of proof that when you have the Coen brothers, Ethan is the wacky one and Joel is the artful one. And when they come together, they make something beautiful. But when Joel does something on his own, it's still artful. And when Ethan does something on its own, it's still wacky and it's missing the art. It's still a good time. I wouldn't recommend it, but I also wouldn't say to avoid it if you're a big Coen Brothers fan, because it feels like a Coen Brothers movie, even though it feels like a weak Coen Brothers movie. I also got to rewatch Perfect Days, which I really wanted to do just to see if certain things about it clicked more this time. I wanted to see if I understood more of Hariyama's backstory through this watch. And I'm going to be honest, it felt actually less clear this time around. Just trying to figure out everything that was going on in his life. I feel like the first time I watched it, I was a little distracted at times, and I think that I read into certain things that aren't actually in the movie, but it's still a wonderful, chill vibe. One complaint, though. You set your film in Tokyo, a city that has an amazing music scene and a lot of history within its pop music, and instead of using any of that Japanese pop music, instead you fill it with American stuff. It really feels like Wim Wenders is just kind of saying, I like American pop music, I'm going to put that on this character. It didn't feel like it fit the tone or setting any of that. So I do have a couple of bones to pick with that soundtrack, even though the songs are all great. And the last thing I saw in theaters was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I'm not going to talk about this one much. It was really not good and just emblematic of all the problems I have with modern studio filmmaking, banking on nostalgia. Everything in this movie was abysmal, and definitely the big stinker of the year so far for me. But then at home, I caught up on a few recent releases like Joyride, which made me laugh harder than most recent comedies have, and I really wish I hit this one in theaters. It's truly one of the most exciting debuts for a comedy director that I've seen recently, at least since like Emma Seligman with Shiva Baby. I also saw Spaceman with Adam Sandler, which was not my vibe at all. I liked what the camera was doing with how it floated and twisted and turned, like gravity didn't apply to it at all. But I also just felt like this movie was trying so hard to be deep, but didn't have a whole lot to say. And surprise, I really liked A Haunting in Venice. I just caught that one.
Let's go.
And this is the Kenneth Branagh that made Hamlet, a formal wizard who can do and make things feel so epic. If the script was a little bit better, this could have been one of my favorite movies of the year, but it does suffer from a cliched script and a mystery that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the filmmaking is just magnificent. Keep that up, Kenneth Branagh.
Totally agree about A Haunting in Venice. It's one of those movies where, like you said, there are things you can nitpick about it, but if you just like get on the film's wavelength, it's a pretty fun time. And I think Kenneth Branagh is really good as this character, and I think he showed like, hey, I still have the juice behind the camera. There's a reason that I didn't talk about Ghostbusters in mine, because I didn't go see it because of how bad you said it was. I'll see it eventually, but I'm not going to rush to go see Frozen Empire because I really didn't like Afterlife. So if this one's even worse, then it's going to go down a ways.
I did like Afterlife. I thought it was perfectly fine. I didn't love it, but like no major complaints from me. It killed time. This was awful.
Well, to not be awful, but to have some people probably say I'm awful, I rewatched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a movie originally I would give a very strong 6 out of 10 to. Thought it was fine, thought it was okay, thought the performances are good, I just didn't think the screenplay really worked for me, and this time around I liked it a lot more. My normal problems with Charlie Kaufman films are still very present in this one, but like I said before, Jim Carrey is fantastic. Kate Winslet is a little hammy at times, but still really good in this as well. The overall story and its messages are a lot more well executed for me on this rewatch. But like I said, I think some of Kaufman movies go a little bit further than they need to and convolute things a little bit too much. And I still think they have like little splashes of that here, but I think this is now my second favorite Kaufman movie that he at least wrote. Being John Malkovich would be number one.
Ooh, nice.
I think that is just fantastic. And Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep is electric as this condescending, ruthless, egotistic maniac that runs runway. Anne Hathaway compliments her very well in a role that's like charismatic and sweet and very determined. You can kind of see her over the course of the film pick up on stuff that Meryl Streep's character is doing, but she's doing it like unconsciously. There's definitely a pacing issue with this movie, and it's definitely like 15-20 minutes too long, but there's some great jokes and some eye-popping outfits, just like Wonka, which I watched on my flight to Canada. Going from this to being the Mabdid is quite an insane, nutty twist for Chalamet that I quite loved. And the music's not very memorable, but it's very fun inside of the film. Paul King knows how to make very fun films. I'm just waiting for him to make a truly, like, great, amazing film. Because I think Paddington and Paddington 2 are very fun, but would I call them 10 out of 10s? not exactly sure. So I'm really excited to see what he does up next.
Have I ever told you my sequel idea for Devil Wears Prada? I really want to see a sequel where Miranda Priestley gets canceled. And it's like set in like 2016, 2017, when all of these like problematic business heads were being taken down. Tar, but with The Devil Wears Prada. But anyways, I'll just kind of slam through some of what I saw this month. I'm not going to go through everything because I saw like 40 or 50 films altogether this month. I watched a lot. So here are just some of the highlights. I got sick at one point this month, which was thumbs down, but you know it was thumbs up. The Princess Bride. This is probably like the 11th time I've seen it. And this time, just for the novelty of it, I realized that the Criterion Blu-ray has a feature where you can hear Rob Reiner reading the audiobook of The Princess Bride as you're watching the movie, so you can hear how the scenes were adapted from the book to the screen. It was a lovely experience and one that I definitely recommend. And next time any of you are out there are sick and you want to watch The Princess Bride for the millionth time. I also got to see Children of a Lesser God, which features Marlee Matlin's Oscar-winning performance. And I gotta say, within like 5 minutes of her being on screen, I was like, yep, okay, I see why she won the Oscar. And by the end of the movie, this was one of my favorite Oscar-winning performances of all time. Probably ranks in my top 5 Best Actress winners. The film itself is really charming. It's not trying to do too much. It's an 80s Oscar bait crowd pleaser, but for what it is doing, it does it really well, and Marlee Matlin just electrifies the screen. I also got to see David Byrne's directorial debut, True Stories, which was a lot of fun. Great music, a lot of weirdness. It's the work of someone who has no interest in being a movie director and just wanted to make a movie, and for that, it feels so unique and special and different. I also got to watch Manhunter, the Michael Mann Hannibal Lecter film, and it's really cool looking at this and then looking at Silence of the Lambs and seeing the difference between how different directors approach this material. Obviously, it's a different story. A more direct comparison is Red Dragon versus Manhunter, because those are adapting the exact same book. But I haven't seen Red Dragon. I've seen Silence of the Lambs, and Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite movies. Manhunter was good, but it never rises up to the heights of what Jonathan Demme is able to do with Hannibal Lecter. I also checked out the 1944 classic film A Canterbury Tale. At first, I didn't really know where it was going. It's a silly little wartime movie about a man who pours glue on people in a British village in the middle of World War II. And I was like, what is this? But then it kind of snuck up on me that it's a film about the home front where it shows what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the freedom to be able to do silly, frivolous things like run around the British countryside looking for the glue bandit. It's from some of my favorite directors, Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. And the last thing I'll talk about, I've only talked about films that I liked. I'm going to talk about one film I don't like because I feel obligated to, since I'm a 5-minute drive away from Indiana right now. I watched the basketball movie Hoosiers, which I thought was not good. Didn't like
agree.
This one. Thank you. It's melodramatic, it's over the top. The music is really good, gotta say that. But everything about it's cheesy. Plus, there's just like an element of good old boy implied racism going on. If you're from Indiana and you're watching this video, I'm very sorry I don't like Hoosiers.
Yeah, my issue with Hoosiers is kind of the reverse Late Night with the Devil. Late Night with the Devil does live production so well. Hoosiers films sports awful. And as someone who films sports for a living, I always get pissed off when movies can't do it right. And I have to admit, High School Musical doesn't do a good job at it either. But that's a film where the campiness of how bad they film it works. This movie, like you said, is melodramatic. It's supposed to be serious. And when you're shooting the game like this, when the clock doesn't match the actual movements they're doing on the court, you have to wonder, what is wrong behind the camera?
I'm not a big sports movie guy in the first place, but yeah, this just rubbed me the wrong way constantly.
Well, coming up for the month of April, we have some really exciting movies that we're both going to watch. Some stuff in theaters, some stuff at home. But until next time, my name's Dyl.
And my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.